Life Audio.
Today on Talk About That, John creates a death metal boy band and ponders what would be on our podcast's official bingo card. Meanwhile, I have difficulty rolling my R's and take a moment to honor the 80s TV star who went skiing and gave us all a brand new catchphrase. Plus a conversation about being centered and why doing the right thing is important even if the results aren't always perfect. Today's episode is not sponsored by trampoline parks, the most fun you'll ever have spraining your ankle.
Jonnie, it's precision, it's intelligence. Let's talk about that.
It's neither of those things.
It sounds like a watch commercial.
It does.
Because you just said,
were you... Okay, so you're 5 years younger than me. Do you remember the Swatch craze? Did you have swatches?
I remember. I did not have one, but I recall it.
You couldn't afford it? Was it a thing? Like it was a little
I
out of your...
don't know if I didn't want one. Like it wasn't,
Really?
It wasn't like a big...
So by then they had kind of faded.
Maybe. Yeah, I was into Vision streetwear.
Oh.
And Tony Hawk skateboard.
Vision streetwear was what? Like the loud colored stuff? Loud colors? And
skater type stuff. Yeah, grunge.
Okay.
A little grungy. I was like a preppy grungy.
Were you?
I brought the prep to grunge, John.
You were a grunge prep? It was like a polo shirt and then like a flannel over top.
Do you remember those Senor Lopez shirts?
No.
I think that's what they were called.
No.
They still have them. But
Okay.
They're like, oh, my wife's dying now. They're not fleece, but they're like woven blanket material made into a hoodie.
Right.
With
It's like a Baja.
Yeah.
What we used to call those.
Yeah. So yeah, you do like that with some shorts and your Vision streetwear shoes. And,
So you were wearing basically a blanket with shorts.
Yeah. I do that now.
Yeah, you do. You have a very interesting, like you bring, my wife does that too. She brings like a jacket with her no matter where we go.
Everywhere.
Because she knows that there's going to be air conditioning.
You
You pull your hood over your head at lunch, like you're like a Sith Lord hovering over your eggs, just trying to, rocking. I can barely see your face.
Yeah.
You're just like, bring him to me.
Bring me the Jedi. Yeah, that's because the bald head.
Yeah.
I mean, I was always cold even before I went bald.
They say that 98% of the heat in your body escapes through your head.
Is that the exact?
It's not
precision.
true. I read that that's not true at all. Actually, it's a myth. That whole thing of like you got to keep your head covered because all the heat in your body escapes through your head. It's like it's not true.
Where'd you read it wasn't true?
I don't.
Like Huffington Post or Cracked or something.
Patriot.us.
Like I love it when they're debunking things that I still believe. Like you know what, Johnny? There's so much fake news.
Can you imagine? Like you have a parent that's still alive, okay? But I always think about what my mom would do with like Snopes.com or like there were so many urban legends that were getting passed around in my household that we know now are just not true.
Right.
And I think it's interesting to think about like what an old person, would do with all that. Like if she got it all at once, like a fire hose of none of this was true.
Right. Marilyn Manson was never in your youth group.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if my mom spread that one. That was a...
Well,
that was one of my favorite ones, though, in church culture, was that there was a boy who came to our camp one year, and none of the kids hung out with him, and blah, blah, blah. And he went on to be Marilyn Manson.
Oh, we say
it was a way to kind of like say, like, welcome people to the table and don't reject anybody because they could go on to be a very successful pop star.
I wouldn't call him a pop star.
Well, I mean, okay.
Yeah, have you seen him?
Yeah, I'm not.
He's not fitting the mold per se.
He's not
in your Timberlake lane.
Okay, sure.
At all.
Yeah.
But that's why they don't tell that story.
I'm not trying to come.
That guy went on to become Justin Timberlake.
That's right.
They don't do that.
Oh wow. Yeah, it's always smoothly.
You're like, wow, we should stop talking.
And I'm not
to
trying to act like I'm a Marilyn Manson fan or anything.
Oh, you love it. I could hear it in your car.
Not anymore. Yeah. We had a falling out.
Remember, I always wanted to start a boy band.
Yeah.
Called Marilyn Hanson.
Oh, no, I don't remember this.
You don't remember that? Yeah.
Marilyn Hanson.
Yeah, that'd be like a boy band metal. A boy metal band. You've never seen it?
No. Huh.
Marilyn
that could happen.
Hanson.
Marilyn
like
Hanson.
3-part harmony screams.
3-part harmony, yeah.
Yeah, you scream in 3-part harmony.
But it's really dark subject matter.
Right.
But it's in perfect harmony.
Right. And there's they're doing the actual like boy band kind of cheesy dances with all the like metal guitar players around them. So they have to keep some elements of boy band.
Yeah.
But the music, is super dark.
I like stuff that's really pretty and has dark subject matter. Like some of the things that I have in my show are that way. I was working on one the other day, and I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it's like in the 70s, there was a lot of things of like, you send me to outer space, you make me feel like I'm floating, all that kind of imagery in a song. And I wanted to do something like that was very 70s. And then basically at the end of the song, you're really in space and you slowly just freeze to death. And then your body's explode.
I was thinking maybe your tether got broken and I just watch you float off into oblivion.
And then your body just explodes. It caves in on itself. Like a love song. I don't know why. I'm a very dark sense of humor. It is. It's out there, but
I like it.
Anyway, look for that later on Spotify.
That's good.
It won't be there,
but
maybe.
Know how you make a 70s, because it's just you and an acoustic.
Well, no, I'm saying like we would add like a track or a synth. Yeah, John, you don't know what I got.
Wow,
you don't know what I got. I've been doing this thing now where I read from my journal in the shows, and I have a track that we made, and it's really like introspective piano, and it's very lilting and fun. And so I'll call for it. I'll go, hey, I want to read from my journal. Can I read some of these new jokes? And they go, yeah. And I go, this helps with like to have some kind of introspective, like contemplative piano music. Do we have anything like that? And then they'll fire that track. And I go, that guy's on top of it. And they'll all clap. And I go, I sent that track. He did nothing. He hit play. It's just so funny to like praise the guy and then pull it back.
Take him right down.
Take it right back. Yeah. Anyway, I would never do that to you, John.
No.
When I praise you, it's for real every time.
Come on.
I don't know.
I don't accept praises, Johnny.
No?
Yeah.
Well, I just mean like praise like I would my dog.
Oh, not like praise and
good
worship.
Boy. Not like worship you.
Okay, because that would get weird.
I can praise you without worshiping you, John.
Remember when Paul performed the miracles? The Bible says that they could scarcely restrain the crowds from sacrificing animals to them.
Oh, wow. No, I don't remember that.
That's what I thought of what you meant. Like,
no,
I try to stop people from sacrificing animals in worship to me.
No.
Like, it's just... You've seen it once, you've seen it 100 times. You know what I'm saying?
You're like, this isn't even what we do anymore.
Guys, there's a carpet in here. You know what I'm saying?
What are you doing?
What are we? Who brings a goat?
Who brings a goat and slashes its neck in front of me and thinks like, this is okay to do?
Right, and you'll like this.
We're in a Chili's, sir.
I think that was Acts chapter
Chili's.
Are you listening to Lectio 365 with our group right now?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
How about the guy has an amazing accent, doesn't he?
Yes. So the brogue.
Yeah. Like it's I think he's South African. Actually, he might be no, he might not be South African. But anyway, it's a deep African.
Is it more of a drawl if it's South African?
No, he rolls his R's.
Okay.
He says, breathe slowly. I'm not going to try to do his accent at all. I get to do the rolling of the R's.
Oh boy.
But he says, and then we recenter. When he says recenter our scattered senses, and then when he does the PRAY, P this, R this, and he always rolls that R just there. I'm like, wow, that's awesome.
I can't roll my R's.
Really?
No, it comes from the back of my throat.
I'm
gargling. I'm not rolling. I'm gargling my R's.
Sadie can't do it either, and I try to teach her all the time.
I wonder what that is. It's like the people who can fold their tongue in half.
I just think this is like skill set. I think anyone can learn this, and you're just lesser than. Like you've just not developed properly.
Well, that's hurtful.
Yeah, but with Sadie, it's so funny. She can't do it either, and so when I'm trying to teach her, we start just cackling, listening to the noises that come out of her as she tries to
figure it out.
It's so funny.
Okay, so speaking of being centered, it reminded me. There's a video of Deshaun Watson, who plays for the Browns now, and quarterback, mired under considerable controversy over the last few years. But anyway, before the game, it just shows him in the middle of the game, but it shows what his pregame mindset is, and he's just literally, looks like he's falling asleep. He's on the bench, and there's like a coach with him who's like, I don't know if the coach is talking to him, giving him affirmations, but Deshaun's just kind of nodding off. He's just kind of there. And I guess he's meditating. Players do that now. They have like meditation coaches. And so somebody shared a clip of that and said, I guess they're a former player, and it says, when I was at State, we had a sports psychologist who would take us through a meditative exercise after the pregame meal. They would turn off the lights, you'd close your eyes, focus on your breathing, etc. It was an excellent way to get relaxed and centered before losing to UAB. Sometimes you get relaxed and centered and you're still not good enough.
Right.
So I think it's important to tell our audience that.
Yeah.
We want you to be centered. We want you to focus on the right things.
Yeah.
And also, sometimes life's going to kick your butt.
Yeah.
Sometimes UAB just has a better quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, this is all the spiritual parallels. Isn't that just like our lives? So,
Yeah. Sometimes you are UAB. Yeah.
Sometimes you're the other.
The best vitamin for a Christian is to be one. The best way to be a quarterback is UAB.
Wait.
One?
UAB one.
UAB one. I don't know.
Hey, Jonnie, we should take a moment and hear from a few of our sponsors. Are you down for that?
Yes.
Let's do it. I was actually thinking about the recentered things a little bit. I was praying this morning a little bit, and like I'd confessed to our group, like, hey guys, I'm a little angry, a little wary on some things, and so I was kind of praying about it, and I had like this realization that the thing about getting yourself right sometimes is not so that everything around you goes right. I think that's a real.
Oh yeah.
Like it may be for you to be able to make it through whatever didn't go right. And then return to it. It may be that you don't even stay perfectly in your spot of being like not angry, not in control, all those things. I mean, that's ideal.
Yeah.
I believe sometimes I'm reacting significantly less, like I may be, 50% better than I would have been if I hadn't kind of spent that time with God, spent that time getting my mindset right. But at the end of the day, I still am so human. But the great thing is it's a place to return to. But I do think American culture, and I know this with a lot of teenagers that have experienced this, there is a sense of, if I do this thing right, then things should be right. They should go well.
The result should be perfect.
Right.
And
it's very jarring whenever you're expecting, because you're good, you and God are good, and then he doesn't move the circumstance to the place that you were asking him to, but yet you were good. So it's like, it's kind of I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, it's like, sports did that to us a little bit too. You think like, people used to say practice makes perfect. And then I heard somebody say, no, it's perfect practice makes perfect. Like you have to, and then in comedy, you say, Seinfeld or somebody, I saw this the other day and it was really interesting. He said, don't do your routine until you get it right. Do it until you cannot get it wrong.
Yeah.
So he said when he was practicing for the Tonight Show, he would run 5 miles a day throughout New York City, through the boroughs.
Yeah.
And he was going over that, and he would do it at night too. He would do that 5 minutes was in his set somewhere when he would do an hour spot somewhere, and he would do that 5 minutes as part of it. Or he would just go up and do 5 somewhere and then do 5. He'd do 10 spots around New York City getting ready for the Tonight Show, the very first one, Johnny Carson. So he goes around, does it, but he's doing it in his head. And he's like, I wanted to be to the point where if someone was punching me in the face,
right,
I could do it. And I think there's something to that where we just think that that's how life is going to be. Like, I'll be perfect and the results will be perfect because I did all the work.
Right.
And sometimes it's just not. Sometimes you can't get a perfect result.
No, I mean, you can, what the old cliche, but it's so true. Like, life is
like a box of chocolates.
Life is 90%.
Okay.
Excuse me. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it.
Yeah.
But we kind of get that reversed.
15% math.
Right. And then, then you take 2%.
What's
for
the
your
other?
agent.
You take 2%.
Yeah. But it's
30% goes to the government.
But that like you really feel like life is what's happening.
Yeah.
And you miss that, like, it sounds, I hate it because of sports cliches or the work cliches. Mm-hmm. And we talk about it a lot with Sadie on, hey, you really can't control what happens. You can control how you show up.
Yeah.
You can't even control your play. Like, you can go out there and do the best that you can do, but your play may not be great tonight. If that's the case, the only thing controls how you react.
I don't know if it's being a parent or being like accessing the therapy or just getting older, but like you definitely have tapped into a more restful side of yourself the last few years. Like as far as like at peace with not achieving 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I've noticed that about you. I was like, oh man, because like I texted you. I was texting you last night and you go, I'm still here. You were at a volleyball game. You were like, still here.
It was 9:30. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had texted you like 6:30.
Yeah.
And you were like, well, the JV did really well. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I text you later, how did the varsity games go? And you go, we're still here. And I was like, holy moly, like this would not have been sustainable for John Driver 5 years ago. You'd have been like, what am I not getting done?
Right, where's my laptop?
Now you're like, I'm in this moment with my kid. This is my job.
And to be clear, when she's not dressing varsity, I do still go out to the car during varsity sometimes and take my laptop. Everything you just said about me was beautiful.
Yeah.
And untrue. No, I think that there's it's not like, you said something at breakfast this morning about like, there are things you can't take credit for,
Mm-hmm.
There are things I would say this. I haven't like gone and found great things. I have been humbled.
Yeah.
And I'm still being humbled, and I'm open to that. So if anything like that has happened, it's like a lot of just,
But it's like you're accessing the real stuff too, though. It's not like, oh man, you've really grown and now you've relaxed. It's like, no, like that's the good stuff. Like you were going to miss that if you didn't figure that out.
Yeah.
You were going to miss out on that thinking, oh, the good stuff is the next book I'll write. No, the good stuff is at the volleyball game.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like you were going to miss that if you hadn't figured that out. And so I think it's so cool.
I had to have some books that you thought, you got to put your energy into something, and then when it doesn't, even if it does well, it doesn't fulfill you. Yeah. And I'm praying that, because, they say that the days are long, but the years are short. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling that.
That's not scientifically possible, but I'm going to go ahead and Neil deGrasse Tyson you there. Neil deGrasse Tyson's famous for being like a huge like killjoy.
Like, yeah, contrarian.
He'll come in and just be like, actually. He's a very well actually.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go ahead and Neil deGrasse Tyson you there and say that your daughter is growing up at the exact rate that she would have. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, I'm asking God, like, slow us down.
Yeah.
Like, this is, and you get so stressed with things, you can be like, stressing your way through what you will look back on as one of the greatest times of your life. And it's like,
or thinking that stress makes you a more aware human. Like I'm more in touch because I'm freaked out. Why isn't everybody else freaked out?
Yeah.
You take pride in how worried you are about things or how much more, it's like your hand is on the third rail and nobody else is even. And you're like, yeah, but you don't take your hand off of it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be this.
Well, and the 6 part of us, really, I mean, again, that's why I have to confess worry. Like, well, I think what I said in the text was I indulged. There have been some worries I've indulged in. Having worries all the time, I don't call them worries. I just call them, I'm always managing a committee in my head who are all talking through what we need to do, looking ahead,
expectations,
what our concerns are, our expectations, how to prepare. So that you can, it's not all worry. That's just what I bring to the world, Yeah. Sorry, world.
That's your gift. You bring.
I do. I bring so at the table, if we had a real table, we're sitting there, I'm probably thinking of things that non-6s are not thinking of. It's so funny. We were getting ready for Advent yesterday. So our creative director is so on it. So we're talking through Advent already and specifics of the services. And
as we film this is September.
Yeah, we're in September.
So we're already talking about Advent at church.
And so Andrew goes, and we laugh so hard. Like Andrew, our lead pastor, who's a 7, and 7s, if you don't know Enneagram guys, is they're adventurers. Things are always great. They reframe negative things into positive.
You get a flat tire, it's like, well, I guess we get to learn to change a flat today.
Exactly. It's very
I bet we're supposed to meet a random nomad because of this. And then they'll lead us to another thing.
Oh my gosh.
It's like a side quest. Yeah. Andrew's a huge side quest guy.
Yes.
If he was in a video game, he would walk up to every mystical warlord and ask for advice in Zelda.
Right. Just see what happens. And I love it. We need 7 so much, but they also avoid pain at all costs.
Okay.
So when they need to feel it, Andrew's a healthy 7, so he has the last 5 years too made so many strides there.
I think pain is my side quest. I'm like, let me see, how can I make this bad? How can I ruin this?
But when Christmas gets brought up, he turns into the most 7 kid you've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
And it's so funny because the team is trying to nail down the songs so that the band can practice and not be freaked, because Christmas songs are hard.
Right.
And so there's a lot of prep there. We're we just need them to know to learn what they're going to do, because it's got all these, major seventh.
He's down there making
Disney.
cocoa for everybody.
But he doesn't want to commit to it. Because he wants Christmas to be like, guys, let's just show up that day, man, and maybe we'll make cocoa and
maybe we'll have our jammies on. What if we came down in our jammies?
Maybe Santa will come in the back, and maybe we'll, and he makes Christmas so fun.
Yeah.
But it was, I said, dude, you are the most 7 at Christmas of anybody I know, because it's like all plans, don't need them. Let's just go. And in many ways,
yeah,
I need to listen to him more, because he's right. Like, in some ways, Christmas is more fun.
You need to listen to me more.
Jonnie, I listen to you a lot.
Okay, so Curry had an idea the other day. Well, it came from Larry. So Larry Marshall talked about how, like, he listens to us while he mows. Yeah. And he sent a text. I don't know if we've talked about this in the air, but he talked about, like, he got to finally check off the box where you mentioned therapy in the podcast. So it's like his bingo square.
Yeah.
And then Curry goes, we should have a bingo card. And she goes, I'm going to make it. So she's determined, like, she was trying to find, like, the 12 things that are in every show.
I think you brought up therapy today.
Yeah, I did.
See, Larry?
But then, like, bringing up Enneagram would be
Larry,
one for us.
Me.
Enneagram, therapy, recovery, language.
Recovery.
Like, I'm just trying to think what the free space would be. The making something into a sermon reference, that'll preach. That's got to happen a lot.
A lot of that. Come on now, guys.
So we need to do it. We need to make it, and I'll publish it, and then you can just have it. So the listeners can just have a bingo card that they know.
We do say, isn't that just like our lives?
Yeah.
Come on now, guys. All these like things that preachers would say.
Yeah.
I
wonder if people who aren't immersed in church culture like understand what that is.
Right. That we're trying to make everything parallel to a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
But we do it at a.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's actually truly what we're doing.
Yeah. Sometimes it's actually what we're doing.
Right. But
we're not perfect, you guys.
I would be honored if a bingo card was made. I wonder, like, the band mention might be one.
Well, sometimes it's like the predictability is almost like you're mocking somebody for being predictable, but also it's like there's a comfort in that. That's why people listen.
Right.
There are gears that we go to that people are expecting.
I want to know why Larry's against.
Why does Larry hate on everything?
Like, why can't it be
just make your lamps and shut up? I'm kidding, Larry. We love you. We love you.
Teasing. But I do think that that's the idea. This is one of your bingo cards.
Okay.
Liturgy.
Yeah. Liturgy.
So the idea of repetition brings growth and formation. That might be another word.
There's a ritual part of listening to something. It's a familiarity that you have.
Yeah.
We're like a warm weighted blanket.
Yes. We have like.
Are you a weighted blanket person?
I sleep under several blankets.
So it's basically you've invented your own version of it because you're cheap. You won't buy the weighted. You just go pile on a 4th blanket.
Well, I want to have the ability to take off a layer if it gets hot, Jonnie.
Okay.
So
but you understand
everything
the
just
principle
said
of the weighted blanket. So
completely out of order.
Our friend Alex Voluto, we did a show at this church in MJ, and he did the darkest bit about a weighted blanket. It was so funny, but you could see, like, he does clubs mostly. He's very clean. He's a dry bar comic. But it was just funny watching the church people be like, I don't know about this. And he was closing on it, I think. He started talking about a weighted blanket, and he goes, who is a weighted blanket? And somebody says, he goes, what are you pushing up? What do you got? And they were like, you at 25? He goes, I'm at 15. You're at 25? Wow. Whew, you got problems. And it's very funny to compare the weight. It's almost like weightlifters. So that was the concept of the joke. And then he goes, I read they make a 50-pound weighted blanket. He goes, that should be required to be delivered by a psychiatrist. If you get, he goes, literally a weighted blanket should just be, they put this on you so you don't jump off the roof. Like that. And the whole crowd, you could feel them kind of be like, nervous. That's a little dark. Yeah, that's a little dark for me. It just made me laugh so hard to watch him navigate a conservative church audience.
Right.
But it's funny.
That's great.
That should have to be delivered by a psychiatrist.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know. John, I think it's time for a weekly segment that we do. And it's when we look back in history, John.
Oh.
Our shared history.
Yes.
And it's the same one we like to call Talk About Then. We like to call it that because that's what it's called.
Right.
Leave It to Beaver star Ken Osmond was shot 3 times this week in 1980.
What?
Did you know this, John?
No.
This was after the Leave It to Beaver run. He played Eddie Haskell on TV's Leave It to Beaver, 1957 to 63. He was shot 3 times while on duty as a Los Angeles policeman. After Leave It to Beaver and a stint in the Army, Osmond joined the L.A. Police Department in 1970, where he worked, so a 10-year career, where he worked as a motorcycle officer. On September 20th, 1980, Osmond was shot 3 times while in a foot chase with a suspected car thief. His bulletproof vest stopped 2 bullets, and the other ricocheted off his belt buckle.
Wow.
So this is pretty advantageous. Got pretty lucky there. He was put on disability and retired in 1988. So he was a cop for 18 years. The car theft suspect was sentenced to death for another murder.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know. Eddie Haskell was actually a pretty brave and
use Eddie
respected.
Haskell like as...
Right, that's your condescending...
It's a trope for, and now it turns out Eddie Haskell became a hero.
He was actually a pretty good guy. This is the week 1977 where we get the phrase in our shared lexicon, jumping the shark. Do you know what it means to jump the shark, John?
I do know what it means.
Do you know? What is it? Give me your definition of jumping.
It's when a show is tanking,
Yeah.
and so they try to come up with a crazy storyline to try to rescue it, but it's so ridiculous now that they've tanked the show even more. And that would be on Happy Days when he was skiing and jumping over
in a leather jacket and shorts
to jump over a shark.
Yeah, he ski jumped over an actual shark. And he jumped a shark in an episode, September 20th, 1977. And it's become a metaphor for when something has passed its peak and is desperately trying to hang on. Another one I remember would be like Sweeps Week. For some reason, there was like a week in May when all the shows, daytime, especially daytime talk shows, it'd be Sweeps Week. And it's like, for whatever reason, the ratings that week were so important. Mm-hmm. So that's when you would have like, I've Got an Alien Baby on Maury Povich.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it would just be like, that's Sweeps Week. Well, when Oprah's going to be crazy because it's going to be whatever. And like all of the daytime soap operas would have these crazy, which they were already nuts.
Right.
But it'd be like, I'm my own grandmother. It would be on Sally Jesse Raphael. And I don't know if Sweeps Week is even still a thing. But I just remember that was a big
They
deal.
do sweeps, but I don't know it as a content thing. I know it more as in the cycle of broadcast.
It's when the ratings are so important for whatever reason,
Right.
and you're just desperate for ratings. And I think Jumping the Shark is different. It's like the Brady Bunch has run out of steam. Let's get the family a dog, or let's bring in Cousin Oliver.
Yeah.
From another, we're going to adopt a kid.
Yeah.
And then like you're trying to do one, we're throwing anything at it. The kids have gotten kind of old and awkward looking now. Bobby's not the cute one anymore.
No, Bobby.
And so now we need Cousin Oliver. Oh, look, he's got glasses.
Yeah.
It didn't work out.
Johnny,
sorry, Cousin Oliver.
It's a pain we all know.
It is. Okay. So the RMS Olympic collision, September 20th, 1911, John. The sister ship of the RMS Titanic and the RMS Britannic collided with the British cruiser HMS Hawke. The Olympic and Hawke were running parallel to each other when the Olympic turned to starboard, and the commander of the Hawke was taken by surprise and was unable to avoid the collision. No one was seriously injured, and here's the trivia part. The Olympic was able to continue under her own power. One of the women on board, Violet Jessup, survived the sinking of the Titanic and the sinking of the Britannic. So she was on board the Olympic when it collided with this, just randomly in port.
Uh-huh.
She also survived the Titanic and the Britannic sinkings.
Okay, the Britannic, you mean the Britannia?
No, it says Britannic.
And
the Britannic and the Titanic were sister ships.
And it sank too?
Yeah.
I don't know this story.
This? I don't know. I don't know the sinking of the Britannic.
Someone called James Cameron. We are missing...
Look,
during the writer's strike, this is our
Violet
shot.
Jessup she's something, man. She's...
I'd stop getting on boats, I think.
Yeah.
Or if I got on a boat, I'd make sure she was on it with me, because apparently she's going to be okay.
I think Violet Jessup jumped the shark. She's still getting on boats. Like, she's a problem.
If your boat jumps a shark, there's a good chance it's going to sink.
That series isn't going to make it. Finally, John, the panic of 1873, this week, 1873.
Yeah.
Oddly enough. It'd be weird if it, yeah. Actually, no. The New York Stock Exchange is forced to close for the first time in its history. It reopened 10 days later. The failure of the J. Cook's Bank 2 days earlier set off a string of bank failures, and factories began to lay off workers as U.S. and Europe slipped into a depression that lasted till when, John?
It was a long time. I would say 1879.
Yeah, 1879.
Oh, there you go.
Look at you. You knew that's a 6-year depression.
Yeah, people forget that we had panics. They would call them panics often,
Yeah.
more than depression.
And the panic would lead to, that's the thing, it's like, and we're seeing this in media, we're seeing this with democracy, we're seeing it with, the way we vote, the voting districts, we're seeing, like, a loss in public confidence that can be, like, ginned up and created, can create a disaster.
Yeah.
Even if it's perceived, if it's a perception. Like, so it's not that the banks necessarily were failing, it's a perception that the banks can't be trusted.
Well, but often what happens is, like today, not to scare anybody, but often what happens is there is a, usually it's has to do with it being, they're giving out too many loans.
Yeah.
Right. And the rates begin to change. Mm-hmm. And so when that happens, suddenly they can't get back what it is they've loaned out. And so the bank is underfunded now. It's overextended. And it's necessary for them to get their money, and they can't. So then that bank fails. I mean, we've seen that recently.
Right.
Several of the banks have failed.
Well, and then they get bailed out like these big banks. Like, they're too big to fail.
Right.
They're a linchpin of our economy. And so that they get bailed out.
Well, then the reason they get bailed out is because, again, one bank going down actually can trigger a lot, because the financial systems are so interconnected. But if you go back, this was crazy. Alexander Hamilton, who really was the sort of mastermind behind what you think of as modern, the stock market, that sort of, what would they call it back then? Speculation is what they call it.
Yeah.
Like, you get in real trouble as a politician if you engaged in speculation, basically as an insider trader, because you had knowledge of what was happening in the market. So, like, Thomas Jefferson was against this. He was like, everybody be a farmer and just, spend less than you make. And, they didn't want this big banking system that creates, because it's all based upon loaning. It's all based upon debt.
Yeah.
Hamilton knew actually us being indebted to other nations and them being indebted to us is actually good, because it gives us credit. So now we have credit to spend because we owe this money, and we can make more money, and you never actually get it back, but it also then keeps you from wanting to go to war, which is why right now there's tension with China, because our economic things are tense. Usually, as long as we're in good...
We've got a simpatico, we've got a symbiotic relationship with them.
Right.
We're buying a ton of their goods and services, and we owe them a ton of money.
And that's why, like, Russian embargoes...
So, like, if we bomb them, it's like, that's one of our biggest customers. Why would we do that?
Right. And so, like,
that's why I've stayed in a relationship with you. You owe me so much money. I'm like, how can I break ties?
What would be the
I'll
point?
never get it back.
If you put an embargo on me, what's it going to do? You'll never get your money back.
John Bargo. That's what they call that. I would never do it, John.
Johnny, I appreciate that.
I don't care if you never pay me back.
Well, I'm glad.
You'll never be able to, honestly.
It's not going to happen.
Because it's not just money. It's
compounded interest.
It is. It's I don't know. It's life. You've drained life from me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Who would I be if I hadn't drained life from you?
Some people are like, it's like a nourishing person in your life. And some people you're like, like, when you leave the room,
you lay down.
I do. Like, this can't go on like this, can it?
How many years?
I got to recharge.
What sort of weird person are you to keep doing this then?
I don't know.
Johnny, you need to take some therapy turns.
I need to take stock,
like, right now,
of things. I just forgive and I move on. You know what I mean?
That's what it sounds like.
It is.
It sounds exactly like you.
It is. I don't even like. Here's the thing. I would never even bring it up.
I'm glad you wouldn't.
Yeah,
why would you?
I wouldn't. No.
It says a lot about you that you haven't.
It's hurt. Like, why hurt somebody?
Right.
Just hold it. So
that's
what I would say.
To state it all, you could never go back from that.
Yeah. It's too much. I would never talk about it for like 200 hours.
No.
How many hours have we talked on this podcast?
I think 100
over 280 episodes.
270 something.
If you want to find those episodes, folks,
we don't know how many.
Talkaboutthatpodcast.com. There's also a link where if you want to support the show, we love your support. We have some new supporters. Yeah. We should recognize them at some point. Free gifts are on their way, new supporters. But we love our supporters. If you want to do that, you can get ad-free content. And then also leave us a comment. There's a little comment bubble down there. That's how you can send the show an email directly. If you want to ask a question, or if there's something that you want to say, hey, we really like this, we really hated that, Please don't say hateful things.
No, it hurts.
We're very sensitive. But if you want to do that, that's a way to get in touch with the show. Leave a review and give us 5 stars if you want to.
Come on now.
That's how it helps people find the show. And anyway.
Don't be so principled you leave a 4-star review. Like, what's the point of that, really?
Yeah, nobody's perfect, so
Right.
I can't. I'll reserve 5 stars for only perfect shows.
No, at that point, you're just inside your
Didn't
own
we
head.
already say in the first part of the show that nobody gets to perfection?
We covered this. And so now that we said it, people are responsible for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you left a 4-star review, we need you to go back and retract it
Yeah.
and make it right.
Guys, because you are that 1 star to us. Wait,
Yes. You're 1-star people to us.
not 1 additional star. Is what
Greg Warren, great comedian, he has a bit about that, about 1-star families. Like, we were a 1-star family, leaving bad reviews at, 3-star hotels. We were a 1-star family staying there. We did not deserve to be there. He goes, and my dad would say, like, I pay taxes. He goes, anytime you hear somebody screaming about they pay taxes, they mean sales tax. They're 1-star people. It's funny.
That's great.
But we feel like you are 5-star people.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate
Everything we said was in jest.
Yes.
We were just joshing.
Guys,
you.
we kid around
Just being
here.
jocular.
Yes.
Yeah. You should check out Jonnie's comedy, Jonnie W, JONNIE
do it.
W.com.
John,
JONNIEW.
you butchered that worse than I butchered
J-O.
the ships that hit each other. I was like reading sentences that are tied together. I apologize. I butchered that. The Britannic and the Titanic and
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Just look
go-
for the weirdest spelling of Jonnie you can find.
Go
and
to, without the H, go to johndriver.com with an H, and you
Yeah.
can find out about John's latest published works.
Oh,
So many. A library
really? It's a
of learning for you
Yeah.
and self-interest and self-help.
yeah. I mean, it's yeah. There's
Self-interest sounds like it's very
Please,
narcissistic.
I'm I'm sorry. It's
Are
not
you
really.
self-interested? You'll love John's work.
I will teach you the ins and outs of real narcissism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do it. Do it the right way.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks for the time you gave us today. It was a lot of fun. We'll see you next week on
Talk about that.